To see some familiar faces. Shout out to Anthony there and some new faces. Reshma, great to see you, and James and Douglas and Adina, everyone else who's joined tonight. So our meeting topic tonight is really around, it's really a conversational focus. So we're really going to just share and talk about what us as a group, what's on our mind, and what we want to engage with each other on. Before we do that, I'm just going to just review a few things that we do for our meeting protocols. So the captions are enabled, and hopefully everyone is seeing them at the bottom of their screens. The meeting is recorded, and our meeting is made available to members that could not attend on our YouTube channel. While we're discussing, when folks are having conversation, we'd ask that the folks who are not speaking to please mute themselves so we can all hear clearly the conversation that's being had. And usually we hold questions to the end of our topics, but tonight, since our meeting format is different, I think we'll just have to look to the meeting administrator, which will be Brad, Sue, and I, to try to just keep our conversation and the flow going so that it's both respectful but also easygoing. So with that, I'd like to just stop sharing and move on to the part of our meeting that really is about talking about what's on our mind. So who would like to actually kick it off with a topic or a comment for tonight's meeting? So Anthony,
Well,
can I reach out to you and put you on the spot and just ask you what you've been up to and what's on your mind?
How are you?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
Good. Thank you. Let's see what's on my mind. I was at a doctor's office today for my physical annual, and every single person that spoke to me spoke with their mask on. And, it was just one of those experiences that we all have where it's frustrating because they also had accents and so I had a little bit of a headache by the time I left that appointment. So I guess that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Well, let me ask the audience, how many folks have had a challenging experience when they go to the doctor's office or in a hospital setting? High stress environment and one that is almost impossible to navigate well, even with all the tools that we have, at our disposal. So has anyone found success with a particular approach in a doctor's office or a hospital environment?
here I have my hand up. Can you see it?
Sue?
I think I'm a little bit unique in terms of with two cochlear implants, I tend to attend better, I think, than the majority. But I still I've just traveled in Morocco and I had some trouble with the accents, even without masks. But at a doctor's office, I just make sure that I just advocate for myself. I have them speak, I have them face me. I ask them to slow down if they need to. Um, and I just ask to repeat, and I haven't really had a problem. I mean, people have been pretty cooperative. It's oftentimes it's the technician behind the computer who's kind of hiding their head, and while they're typing and you know. And I'm just very cognizant of
you-
that in my own practice because I don't like it when they do it.
Do you find that you ever have doctors who just talk too fast? And have you ever succeeded with someone who talks too fast to actually slow down? Or do they slow down for one or two sentences and get back to their usual speech?
Does that work when you ask me to do it, Carol?
No, yeah, when you ask a doctor to slow down, do you, first place, do you have a problem with a doctor who talks too fast? Oh, there's a message here from somebody who I gave the link to. She's saying I can't get into the meeting. Is there something you can do to help her, Brad? Do you see the message?
You'd have to send her the link. She's not in the waiting room, so she probably isn't using the right link. So maybe you can, if you have her email address, forward her the email you got from Zoom, and that'll have the link. She'll join as Carol,
Ah,
but she can at least get into the meeting that way.
yeah. Okay, I will vanish for a bit while I'll reduce this. Okay, I'm hardly the one to manage. Uh,
Uh, so Reshma, I
how-
think you were next.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Good to see you, Brad and Kerry. Uh, I'm excited about meeting Kerry tomorrow for ADA Day. Yeah. Okay. So to answer your question, whenever I meet someone who has some vitally important information to share, I just wait for them to talk. And if I'm lucky, they'll talk slowly and clearly, and the accent will be neutral. Uh, Otherwise, I wait for them to finish talking, and then I ask them to repeat a little more slowly. If at all someone is wearing a mask, I usually keep my phone with me and I keep my live transcribe app on because in certain situations, I'm not going to meet this person again. And this information is important to me, like a doctor's appointment. So I don't feel the need to explain to them, oh, I have hearing loss. Can you speak a little more slowly? I just keep the app open and I get to finish off my appointment all the more quickly. Okay. Thank you.
So I have found in my experience, in general, both the outer office staff and, say the PA supporting my doctors will be supportive, but I will still have to remind them once we get started, and they resort, like most humans, back to their, natural state. I'll have to just stop and say, "Excuse me, I'm not following. Can you either slow down or repeat that?" Or sometimes I'll say, "I need to read what you just said from my phone and see if it makes sense to me." And, interestingly, when that happens, they usually stop dead. It just stops the conversation while I do that. And then I come back and I think, that and sometimes actually makes clearer how much dependency I have on the communication going slow with check-ins. Am I getting it? Am I getting it? Am I understanding what's happening here? I have not had people recently be resistant to me using captioning. A few years back, I encountered that more, but recently, I've had more acceptance when I say, "I'm captioning this or else I won't follow." And so that takes down my stress level a bit when I know I'm free and clear to use all the tools that I have, to try to follow. I would like to share the one experience. Hopefully, you will all laugh, but it wasn't funny at the time. But I went into the hospital for my dreaded colonoscopy appointment, which is always high stress and dreaded. And, you go through the nurses and everything's going fine. Doctor knew I needed captioning and check-ins to follow. Everything was great until they wheeled me into the procedure room, at which point an assistant came up and started reading to me the disclosure, blah, 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 reading from a pad. And I'm on a table like with, just totally not able to receive anything. My phone was not with me. And I just couldn't believe it. So I just said, stop, stop, stop. And everybody was all, turned around and said, what's happening? And I said, I don't understand a word you're saying. If you're reading something, hand it to me and I will read it. Because I don't, I'm not following anything. So that's in fact what they did. They handed me the tablet with the disclosure on it, and I read it, and I was like, okay, good to go. But I was mortified, mortified. And that was, to me, an extreme example of a situation that is stressful in the moment. And, I could have shook my head and maybe sometimes would have done that, but I was so aggravated. I felt that that was my most vulnerable point. I had navigated well, up to that point, but in that procedure room, I was there, to get done what had to get done and was not engaging in a conversation with anybody. So anyway, it was, I learned from myself, honestly, from that experience probably 18 months ago that I need to be brave, maybe braver than I had been and more outspoken. I was glad I was, but I would have preferred to just not have had the whole thing happen easily, honestly. But
Carrie, I thank you and Reshma, I hope I said your name correctly, and Sue for your strategies. Um, Carrie, you just hit the nail on the head. I don't think for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I've had this conversation at least a dozen plus times in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So I can't really say that I'm going to hear anything that's any different than what I already know. But what you hit the nail on the head is it's the vulnerability part. I think I get really tired and I get really frustrated, like, here we go again. I was fielding some phone calls earlier in the morning, people with accents, not really understanding them, going to the doctor's office, oh boy, here we go. Here we go again. And I do exactly what you guys say. I'm really good with, advocating for myself and telling people, no, 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 I'm not understanding you. Please slow down. But I think what we're talking about is apples and oranges. And I think the issue that I am really trying to bring up is it's the vulnerability, it's the patience level. Tomorrow I have my annual hearing test. So of course I'm thinking already to myself, oh boy, are they going to tell me I've lost speech recognition? Are they going to tell me that, something has changed? And it happens, right? I'm getting older, so I understand that. But it's that vulnerability piece that I think we all deal with, and I don't think there's any end all answer to that. I guess I'm just sharing out with a community of people that I know can empathize, because we don't have meetings in person and we don't get to really talk about these kinds of things with each other. So having an opportunity like tonight to somehow reach out into the Zoom world and see people shaking their heads and saying, "Yeah, I understand." That in and of itself is more important than those strategies that somebody can write on a document for me to help me. But it's that community of people that I really miss. I know HLAA meetings used to occur in Central Mass and North Mass and South Mass, and I know that it's difficult and people are busy, but I think that we really need that. I hope that the takeaway for me is that people might want to try to work together to help Kerry and the chapter in having more people meetings and being able to talk about these types of things like this in person, because then that's how we are able to connect with each other. And the takeaway isn't so much the strategy, but the takeaway is, wow, I just spent time with people that really understand what I'm going through.
Thank you, Anthony. That's a great point. I am hoping we will have 1 or 2 meetings coming up this fall in person that we can join together. But it is, as you point out, we do need folks to get involved to facilitate more of that because it's meaningful. It matters to all of us to be able to establish that connection in person. I think Carol might have her hand.
Yeah, I think you wanted suggestions for devices we've been using, and I've been falling back a lot on the captioning because if I use captions on my phone, where they're fairly accurate, especially Ava, I'm finding is a very good free caption, except that you get only 45 minutes. Live transcribe, if you use it on an Android, you can use it indefinitely, but it's not as good as Ava. But there are all these caption things that you can toy with, and with AI, they are getting more accurate than they used to be. So one problem I've had is if I use my iPhone, which is my regular phone, and it has, of course, all of the adjustments for the hearing aids on it, if I use it for captioning, it cuts off the hearing aids. It cuts off the remote control. Also, it softens the hearing aids, so they're not as effective. So I got a very cheap Android phone, which I put Live Transcribe on, and then I started looking into ways of standing it up so that when I sit at a table in a restaurant with somebody, I can read what they're saying. And I found this device, which you can put in a pocket because it's nice and flat. And then you can just twist it and make it stand up so that then you can just rest the phone on it and have the captions face you, and it works somewhat, but it's just not accurate enough, and it's not sensitive enough. The microphone doesn't pick up the words clearly enough. And then after carrying this thing around with me, which does take up some room, even if I can flatten it and put it in my pocket, but it's still a little big. But then I discovered that the thing that I hoped for does exist. And I bought this and I just got it yesterday, but it's nice and compact. See, it's like this, and you can rest your rest the anyway, it there I keep trying different gimmicks, and I saw one, and now this thing, which is a cell phone that is not connected to a phone company. So this cost only $150. I saw one now that is called, let me see, I sent a couple of you a copy of it. It's, what's it called? Caption something.
Caption Companion,
It-
Carol.
Thank you, Caption Companion. And what the advertising says about it, and I've been back and forth, they're really chatting with me about it, because there's no way I'm going to pay them $1,600 for something that I'm not assured that I can return, and I really would like to try it first. And they don't have anything local. So I'm hoping that maybe it becomes local one of these days so I can give it a try. I was hoping to get the glasses, but I'm finding that because my two eyes don't work together, the glasses don't work for me. So at least I was able to give them a try. So I'm not going to gamble with that kind of money without testing it. And I am also trying to get accommodations for, I'm living in a retirement home, trying to get accommodations. And I've decided that the best way to start is with captions, because that's the cheapest thing. Anything else, they're going to have to put up money for. It's going to be, going to the corporation, getting management to agree to it, and so on. But if it's just captions, and I know we do captioning in our meetings when we do the in-person meetings, or I guess we could probably even put Zoom on and use the Zoom captions for the group. We have the monitor, projector and a screen. So we're going to try captions first and hope that they're more accurate than the captioning I've been able to do for myself. But it's a question of whether it's trying to get things that you can hear or things that you can read. And there's a lot to experiment with. And this thing cost only $15, and it holds it holds it very well when you're not trying to hold it in the air, that you could just put it up like this and stick it in your pocket. All right, that's my contribution.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carol. That was very great to hear about all the different things that you've looked at. I know we have a couple other folks with questions, both James and then Nancy. So James, let's start with you.
You're still muted, James.
Hold down your space bar and then we can hear you.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
back. I was just saying that I identify with everything everybody's been saying. And I second Anthony's suggestion that we do a lot more of this. I know my most recent thing, well, one thing about my doctors, and I have several because I have lupus, which entails rheumatology and nephrology and all those different specialties. But my PCP is excellent. The first gesture that she really made was she made me get closer to her, and I thought that was very nice. It's very sweet. I mean, I sit very close, and that is enormously, as you know, helpful. And so I do a lot of navigating the medical system. One thing I've been doing, and I've been in a community for 2 years now, and I think people see me coming, they think, "Oh God, here comes the hearing lecture," uh, you know, and I try to explain to everybody a simple thing, as we all do, that I hear quite excellently one on one, and the requirements one on one, people who want to be heard, who care about what they're saying, and they want to communicate that to me. That makes an ideal hearing situation. And then it degrades from there. The more people, the less coherent, the less intensive the other person is. But I've been trying something that sounds stupid in a way lately, letting go. I've I mean, is that news to anybody? But I mean, I had a recent overnight hospitalization, and I thought, I'm not gonna worry. I'm not gonna care. I mean, let me see if people say significant things that I must hear, like put your arm here, don't do. And I just floated, and it was very relaxing. I mean, to pretend or figure like if somebody wants to know something, they'll figure out a way to ask me or tell me. But in the meantime, I'm free, and it was an interesting experiment. I mean, it certainly is not highly self-respecting in a way, but it's still it was easier. And I find it hard. People do not, we know this, do not understand hearing loss. They understand absolute deafness, if complete loss of hearing. But like in my case, I have no consonants. I hear a string of vowels when people talk. So it takes enormous effort. And in terms of letting go, I mean, I think I listen so intently. You know, somebody's telling me something that doesn't matter, and I'm listening intently. I use from my cognitive reserve, so I get depleted. And people, I think that's very difficult to understand. That for me to watch a 2-hour movie where I have to both pay close attention to the captions and maybe to the words themselves, to the people themselves speaking, that's not just a relaxing movie for me. It's everything takes energy, and I'm wondering. I find myself now not doing so much because I don't have that kind of energy, and people I've gotten more harsh maybe. I mean, if I'm walking down the hall and somebody's behind me talking to me, I say can't hear you, can't hear you, can't hear you, you know, and you know, what can I do? I can explain the acoustics and I can, you know, but it, I think sometimes letting people know the extent to which I am impaired, and the energy that I must put out to be quote normal, uh, at least you know that what the cost is, and and I have my setup here. I have a couch that has all kinds of cushioning, and I put my chair. Somebody comes over, I put my chair in front of them, and they think, oh God, I'm in therapy. You know, but that's my and I say to people, if you want to talk, come to my my hearing situation, and I've advocated here, we have lots of huge classroom, auditorium, sunroom, but it's very difficult to hear. The sunroom has glass windows, huge glass windows, high ceilings, kind of neoplasticy furniture. Okay, you know, they might as well can't hear. So I've suggested that we have actually a quiet room, an acoustically kitted out room, and chairs facing each other, circular, and so we have a hearing room. I mean, it sounds, of course, the whole place should be hearing, but it can't be. So I was thinking maybe I should. I've asked for it, and people sort of laugh, but I'm serious. I think that would be something we could do, a hearing room, a talking room. So, so, so I'm mixed everything from letting go to you know, full steam ahead advocacy. So thanks.
James, thank you so much. That was such awesome advice. And I think what I needed to hear, you hit the nail on the head. You said, give it basically, just don't worry, just go with it and like let go, and whatever's going to happen is going to be. And I think that's a fantastic way to go through life in general, keep ourselves, free of the anxiety that we live with our hearing. So thank you for saying that. I think that was incredibly helpful.
So I think Nancy, you wanted to share.
Yes. So many things people have said so many things that I'm thinking back my own experiences. I have a mid-range, a hereditary hearing loss. So I probably hear, in some ways, one-on-one, I hear fairly good. I stress out with the masks, even though for a while I was wearing a mask because I have a medication I was taking. But I had one instance, and it was a hearing loss, but I was getting my ears, the wax out of my ears. And I'll never go back to this place again. So they put water in both ears and they couldn't get the wax out, and I couldn't hear at all. And it was the first time I used live transcribe in that, but I said, I can't hear you. And they didn't even hear me. And they kept talking. It's like, okay, I can't hear what you're saying. So I was able to turn on live transcribe. I forget which phone I had at the time. But I find that when I need live transcribe, it's because there's a lot of background noise and it doesn't work. So I need something that will work so I can hear the person next to me instead of picking up all the noise in the background. So it's like a mingle, everybody talking at once is what I really struggle with. And I don't, sometimes I go and sometimes I choose not to go if I feel it's too stressful for me. So that's what I would like to find if there is an app that will focus on that person or the group of people that I'm directly talking with in a crowded, noisy room. And
Nancy, do you have hearing aids? You wear
yes,
hearing aids? So check with your audiologist because there are different programs you can get. And so I have a program for mine it's called Speech and Noise. And what that
yes,
does is it focuses. So it's just the forward facing mics that are on and it suppresses the background mics. And so that might give you a leg up on what you're trying to
it
do. Hear the
it
people that you
helps.
want. Do you
It
have what?
helps.
Okay.
I have that.
Okay.
Everything helps, but
Right.
I've still been in situations that I have struggled to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It's more than one thing, right? You have that and then use the text too, right? Use the
yeah,
Ava or live transcribe.
yeah,
Use all the technology available to you.
right. And just one other thing is that we're talking about phones. My phone cover always has a stand. So I just sort of combine them all so that my phone will stand up in any way that I need it to for. So, so that's all I had.
Yeah, that was great, Nancy. Thank you for sharing that. I think we have someone else here. So Sue?
Yeah, hi. You know what? I'm hearing everybody, but I'm still what James kept saying about letting it go just keeps resonating with me. And I think that's how I tackle just about any stressful situation. I talk myself through it. And I might talk myself through it before I get to that situation, but it just lowers the anxiety to the point where, I mean, I just remember this was years ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I went to a two-person play and it was supposed to be looped and well, it was looped, but I was sitting all the way at the end, even though I was in front. My first thought was, oh God, I'm not going to hear it. And I just kind of went with that thought for a while. And then all of a sudden I said, what am I doing? You're sabotaging it before you even began. So I just calmed myself down and it really worked. And you know what? I probably heard more than half the people there, just because I calmed myself down and I let it go, and I think and it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy to do that. And yes, you are exhausted at the end, because you're hearing, you're reading captioning, you're doing whatever you have to do. But you also now you've got the emotional and the psychological component of it. But it just pays off in the end because at the end I'm like, I really did hear that. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. and I'm kind of give myself a pat in the back. And sometimes you just have to have those kind of conversations with yourself. And I think we have to do it more than anybody, because like I said, our disability isn't visible to anyone. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I think Reshma, I think you were next.
Hi, Brad. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to share one more experience that I had. It was with a dentist who was wearing a mask, and I couldn't have my phone with me. So this time I had an emergency appointment with a dentist. I was meeting him for the first time, and I was already in the dentist chair, fully reclined, and I couldn't keep my phone with me. I was waiting for the dentist. He came. He was wearing a mask, and I said, "Do you mind if you remove your mask? I have trouble hearing you and understanding you because I have hearing loss." And you know what he does? He puts his face very close to my ear and repeats everything in a super loud tone, volume. I got so angry, okay? And I was wondering, what can I do? Luckily, there was another person in the room. I don't know who she was, but she was there from the beginning and she was wearing a white coat. And best of all, she wasn't wearing a mask. So I had to be creative. So I said, is it okay if you say whatever you want to say and you pointing to the other person repeats the same thing to me so that I can understand and respond to whatever question you have? Fortunately, both of them agreed to that, and the interaction went very successfully, and I finished my dentist appointment without any negative experiences after that. Thankfully, my teeth are fine now. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. That's fantastic. Anthony, you're up.
So I have a question for those of you who have a hearing spouse or a hearing partner. Um, in those moments when you don't have your hearing aids on, so for example, you're going to bed, right? And you're put your head on the pillow and or I don't know, there's so many other instances that I could think of. You get out of the shower, you don't have your hearing aids in. What are some of the strategies that you use that helps in the relationship and being able to communicate? I know, is it like, okay, well, I can't really communicate with you right now, so this is not a good time? Or is it like, I need you to speak a little louder? Um, what are some of those things, that, because there are instances in which we don't have our hearing aids or we can't have our hearing aids in, and yet there still may be that opportunity that we need to communicate. So I'm curious what other people are doing.
So, Anthony, I'll start with this question. So I've been married for, it'll be 40 years next year. So my husband has had many years in training of how to communicate with me and what doesn't work. So, if you have a long time relationship, people, I think, realize over time through their own frustration, right? Or through misunderstandings, may not all just be, grace on their part. They know they've been through things that have not worked out well when, the person with hearing loss doesn't understand. So I think that helps, encourage your partner to invest. And I know in my husband's situation, maybe to save some of his own energy, he will stop, if we're engaged, or he will realize we'll talk tomorrow if it's something that can wait, or turn the light on if that's something that might help. But I do think experience really matters. So I would find, honestly, the relationships that are most challenging to me are where I don't have that history, right? And maybe I can't myself, I can't read the context or read the person as well as I can, someone I know deeply. And they haven't yet been trained, if you will, on what works for me, what works with me, not just for me, but with me. Communication, as we all know, is a two-way street. So if it's working for us, but not working for them, that's a problem. If it's working for them and it's not working for us, that's the problem. So getting to a setup, situation specific that both of you can get enough, understanding is, at least in my life, it's been trial and error with definitely some informative errors, crafting how we do things now. But I do honestly, I think of young people in relationships. I think of, or just people in new relationships, how challenging that must be, without that track record to guide you and the experience to guide you. So I can't help with that after 40 years, but I can appreciate how difficult that must be.
Douglas had his hand up very briefly. I don't know if you changed your mind, Douglas. Uh, I, and now you're, oh, okay.
I just my hand didn't seem to work with the so I've been following the conversation for quite a while, and what been interesting for me was that as I hear everybody's stories, I've been deaf all my life, and I wore hearing aids since I was 3 years old. So I've been through all these experiences for years, decades, okay? And I can empathize with every one of you who've gone through it because I've been through it myself. And I've always had the attitude that I'll just do the best I can. Just try to do the best I can because it takes patience, ingenuity, resourcefulness just to get through communication, like clear communication in any situation. I found that um, that most people are patient enough to work through it in our situation. And that's a blessing every time. Like when I go to the doctor's office, I've never had a situation where I had trouble with the doctor communicating with me because there's no damn deaf, and they try to make hard to make his communication effective with me. When I when I go to church or any group situation, I'll try to make the best of it, whether it's in noisy environment. Well, a noisy environment is really bad for me. And then, but I can try to get in the quieter room, a quieter environment, then I do okay. Um, but I have one advantage though, being deaf from birth, that I've been developed good lip reading skills. So even if I don't have the hearing aids on, I do understand people who lip reading. So it's been quite an experience for me. Now, I think 6 or 7 years ago, I got cochlear implants. And boy, that's been a revelation to me now because last week I went to a physical therapist. She had a mask on, and I could understand every word she said. So the cochlear implants have been really, really helpful to me. But that doesn't always happen. But I can appreciate having um, gone through all this experience myself and just hearing everybody else's stories. So thank you all for sharing your stories.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, I'm puzzled about the concept of the hope sessions. I have thought of them, well, I guess maybe in the former days when we were meeting in person, we were talking about devices, the things that help us here. Now we're talking more about emotions. I mean, yeah, certainly both are important. If I could switch back to devices, I'm really puzzled at how few people use these simple things. I know very many of us have it, and yet I know here where we sometimes have 100 people come to an event. I wind up being the only one who clips this on the speaker. And, I keep wondering, now what would happen? First place, the latency. I don't know how many people are familiar with the concept of latency, but how fast the sound gets to you. This is the best latency of anything, much better than any of the other hearing devices that we have. It's called it's a clip-on mic. It's the only mic I think that Phonak makes that isn't a Roger mic. And it's a clip-on mic and it's very easy to attach it to the person who's speaking. And it is phenomenal. It is the only thing that comes close to what a loop does. If you have a telecoil and a loop, that's really the 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 prime way of getting information, but much more rare. And this is something people have and just don't use very often. And maybe they're embarrassed to go over to a speaker and say, "May I clip this on you?" But nobody has ever said no to me. The only problem is you're stuck. If you don't like the speaker, you can't leave. You're stuck for the rest of the program. But if you've got only one speaker, clip this on, and what I would like to see happen is maybe a dozen people ask the speaker. At some point, we've got to find some other device. Maybe take a ruler and clip a bunch of them on the ruler, and then the speaker can just hold up the ruler. I don't know, Brad, maybe you've got an idea of a way of using these and encouraging more people to get them.
Yeah, I think that ruler idea is great. So like I have one too. I have a connection. So you have Phonak, I have Oticon. So it's the same basic thing. And I mean, as long as they have a big enough collar, you can just kind of make a necklace out of them. But I guess that's a good problem to have in the future, right? If enough people do
Yeah,
what Carol does and just goes up there and has the speaker put the mic on their collar, then we run into the problem is what happens if you run out of collar space. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? First we need to fill
yeah.
up that collar.
Sue wants to add to it?
I think part of it is, part of it's what you said. I think some people may just be embarrassed, but I think you'd also, as Anthony put it, hit the nail on the head again. Everybody's hearing loss is so different that not everybody needs that. Not everybody needs to depend on that. And the ones that do often may not even know about it or may not use it, or, it's just, like I said, our needs are so different. It's not like wearing glasses and we see. It's not like, being put in a wheelchair and we're mobile. And I think that's probably half the problem right there. And
I wonder, this is Ann Watt. I'm sorry, my picture doesn't work on my machine. But one of the reasons I came tonight was to find out what the name of that little black thing is, how much it costs, and where to get it.
You're talking about this, Mike?
Yes, yes.
These mics are all proprietary. Each brand has its own mic, and you can't switch them from one brand to another. My hearing aids are Phonak, and this is a Phonak mic. And this cost $450. The mic they have that is a multi-purpose mic costs $2,300. So this one is considered a real bargain.
Yeah, so that's Phonak. If you have Oticon, it's called the Connect Clip, and you get the just ask your audiologist because they have to be prepared the first time at your audiologist's office in order to connect with the hearing aids. But check with the audiologist. I'm pretty sure every manufacturer has their own microphone. So check with.
And if you
Have
wind
to
up
get
going,
it through an audiologist. Okay.
also, if you have cochlear implants, it becomes a whole different ballgame. Most of those, you get certain points when you get a cochlear implant. And there's certain accessory points, so you can use them towards accessories. So it may not cost anything to get the remote mic with a cochlear. It just depends on what you choose your accessories. I mean, I chose a Roger pen. I chose water, the what they call active lifestyle, and they keep changing the name, active lifestyle wear, whatever I call my swim processor. But but again, that's with a cochlear implant. So again, it depends what device you have, but they are all proprietary.
I have Unitron.
You
That's
have what?
the
I'm sorry?
brand name. Unitron.
Unitron.
Yeah. But I'm sure they have their own.
I can Google it quickly.
Oh,
So I use my Oticon Connect Clip when I play golf, and my friend Steve, who has a very low speaking voice, he wears it on the lapel of his collar of his shirt. And the great thing is, you can be up to 300 feet of a distance of away, so that when we're looking for a lost golf ball, all he has to do is whisper into that Connect Clip, "Anthony, I found your ball," and he could be 300 feet away. And so that's one of the great things about it. The other thing I've done is when I've been in a car where there are people in the back seat and I'm worried about hearing them when they talk, I give them my Connect Clip so that they can talk to me without me worrying about hearing what they're saying because I can't face them. Also, at work, you can use it to your advantage. I've actually gone into meetings where I've left it on the conference table and I've gone to the bathroom and I could still hear every word that's being spoken in the meeting. I'm a school teacher and I actually had parents start talking about things that they did not want me to hear. So it's funny how you could use it to your advantage. But I do want to go back to what Carol said. And Carol, I love you because ever since I've known you for 20 some odd years, you've always been the one person that I know that's on the forefront of technology, assistive technology. But as you pointed out, Carol, I think even for me, after all these years, depending on the situation that I'm in, I might still actually be a little reluctant because of that vulnerability factor, or maybe my insecurity with my hearing loss, that I might not want to say to somebody, would you be willing to wear this Connect Clip? So I don't necessarily think it's always about, do we have the knowledge? Do we understand the access? But speaking for myself, I'll be very transparent. I think sometimes for me, it depends on my comfort level in saying to somebody, would you be willing to wear this?
Or sometimes the situation just doesn't warrant it. I mean, sometimes it's a conversation that it's just ultimately it's going to go in one ear and out the other ear, literally.
Yeah,
it's not.
pick and choose, unfortunately, right? I want to get to Adina. She's had her hand up very
Okay,
patiently.
Brad, I just looked up the name of that. It's called a partner mic for Ultratron, for Unitron.
Could you say that slower?
It's called partner mic for Unitron.
Okay,
Yeah, phone hack calls it partner mic.
thank
All
you.
their other mics they call Roger mics.
And I've seen lots of people bring them into dinner and just put them on the table. And I wonder whether that's worth $450.
This does not work too well on the table. It's the more expensive mic that works on the table.
I
This
actually
has to be-
ordered that microphone, so I'm gonna try it when it gets in because I'm teaching summer school. It's called the Roger On.
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
expensive one, right?
Yeah, and because I didn't know this when I accepted the assignment, but the building has like really high ceilings and hardwood floors, and it's like an echo nightmare. The entire building is that way. The classroom is that way. I brought in some rugs and I put some felt on the walls. But then there's bus duty, there's lunchtime, and it's just like the first few days, it was exhausting. It was just like I took a nap for like 2 hours when I got home. And it's better this week, but I'm just thinking, and I adjusted the settings of my hearing aids, and it's better. Today's was much better than the first few days, but um, I really want to try that mic and see like if it does anything to help with the listening fatigue. That I have less of it now than I did before, but still, it's like I hold back so much from like socializing with the other teachers in those moments when, you're just waiting for all the buses to come. And like, I can see like people talking with each other, adults, getting to know each other and stuff. And I'm just, thinking I could do that. Like I can go right up to somebody and have a conversation with them. I can do that. But it's like somebody mentioned, it's like there's such a cost to that, like it's so much more work for me than I think even it's just invisible, and I'm like, I'm just not going to spend my battery energy on that chit chat when I need to understand when the kids talk to me. I'm just saving it all for them. And I'm hoping that this microphone will help with that, like, so I'll put it on the table in the classroom. That is my plan because the kids are in a semicircle. So my plan is just put it on the table in the middle of the semicircle. And I think that could make it easier. And then for lunch and recess and dismissal time, I could grab it and put it on my lanyard. We all have to have a lanyard anyway with our badge. So I could just put it on that lanyard. But it's like Anthony was saying, the vulnerability of doing that is like, okay, if I take it out of the basket on the table and put it on my lanyard, somebody might catch on. Well, what is that thing? Like if I just leave it on the table, nobody's gonna think anything about it. But if I, take it to the next step and use it in other ways, then, but it's like, people already know I have hearing aids, so in that I feel like that big bridge has already been crossed, so it's like, what's the big deal at this point, but still it's like, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but yeah,
Dina, I absolutely can empathize with you. I've been teaching almost 30 years, and a number of years ago, about 15 years or so ago, I just said, you know what? I don't care what people think anymore. I would go into either my classroom or my office, and I would shut the door because I needed that downtime to de-escalate from being in loud, loud, loud environments, going from the classroom, going to from the hallway, going into the cafeteria, going outside. I completely empathize with you. I have to tell you, I often say that it's like a coming out process, and I went from one end of the spectrum to the other, where I found the more I talk to people about it and the more I explain to them that for them, they're walking all day when they're hearing, I'm running all day in order to hear. And so then they sort of kind of understand, like, oh, okay, he's not being, it's not that he's not social, it's that he is really struggling. And like you just said, I'm saving it for when I really need to be on my A game, which is with my kiddos. And as far as technology, about 15 or 20 years ago, I think it was Carol actually who introduced me to the Domino Pro assistive technology that I used in the classroom. And I'd recommend you check it out. It was very helpful for me. However, it would mean that your students would pass around a microphone similar to the Connect, the Oticon Connect clip that I have. And depending on the age level of the kids you're working with, it's going to be it's an education for them. It's an education for you. I work with teenagers, so they would go into the microphone and they would scream, or they would and I would say no, 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 we're not going to play with this. It's not a game. And as a special education teacher, I would have to say to them, you're a person with a disability. How would you like it if somebody did something that was not fair in terms of your challenges? And then they completely get it. And then next thing I know, they're willing to do everything and anything to help me. So you kind of it's communication with the kids. Kids know what vulnerability is like. They're going to love you no matter what. And as far as the adults, screw them. I mean, if they think like you're not being social during that bus time, and somebody was to approach you, you could simply just say, hey, it's a challenge for me, or this is a time in which I need to de-escalate, and that's just too bad. And as far as getting all of these different assistive technology devices, you can get your school district to pay for it under a 504 accommodation plan. I haven't paid for anything in the 20 years that since I've got my first pair of hearing aids. I wish they'd pay for my hearing aids, but they do pay for all the assistive listening devices. So you can contact your principal and let them know that you need these devices, and that the district they have to pay for that.
Could they reimburse? Like if you
Yeah,
already.
they reimburse me. So I pay for I've already bought 3 Oticon Connect clips, and throughout the years. And I pay for it, I send them the receipt, and then they reimburse me.
I know my district, I worked in Newton Public Schools for 22 years, and I know when I sent them reimbursement, they would scream at me. They wanted to order it with a purchase order in their way, but they'll do it. You just have to be forceful. But again, it's in the time I've worked there, I've never paid for any assistive devices myself.
No, I didn't have anybody actually get mad at me. What I first did, Adina, is I first got permission in advance before I purchased it. And then I saved that email correspondence that said, yes, Anthony, go ahead and buy the Connect clip. So once you get that, email, you're set to go.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, thank you. I mean, I just ordered this online, the other day. It didn't even come in the mail yet. I mean, I don't know, it's really good to know that, because maybe, I could return it over the summer vacation and then just go through the regular way, the way I should go.
Well, you could keep one for your personal use and then buy one for work use. You could do something like that too.
Or you can ask them for reimbursement and just see what they say. And just be
Yeah.
consistent that, you got this because you needed it. You're kind of at the end of your rope. You needed to do something.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess that's another thing. Like I haven't, because like I always had hearing loss in one ear, like all my life. And I really didn't, I didn't grow up thinking that's a disability or being aware, like I didn't have accommodations or anything. Um, I didn't learn any self-advocacy, and I had a normal hearing ear, so it wasn't like it did affect me in some ways with the group dynamics, I think, when I look back at it on it. But then like a few years ago I started to get some loss in my better ear. So I'm still kind of new to wearing two hearing aids full time, and just really being hard of hearing, and so like I never have said on paper with my job, I have a disability, and I've never contacted the equity department for anything. So like I just feel a little bit like, what happened? What if, what will happen if I do that? I don't know.
Do you
So
teach
that's
in a
something that
private
so many of
school?
us have talked about, Adita, and self-disclosing, especially on the job, and especially when you're new. Are you new?
I'm not new, like I've been there over 15 years.
Oh, okay. So you have tenure, you have professional status. Is it public school?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Boston. Yep.
So between the union and everything else. I mean, I have to tell you, I've with my 504 accommodation plan, I have asked for various different accommodations, and yes, it's a risk. It's taking a risk, but you have every right to do that. And once I do it, like each time I do it, it gets easier and easier. And and it also helps to educate everybody that you need this because it's going to help you be better at what you do. That's always the angle that I have always used. It is going to make me that much better at being able to do what you need me to do. So therefore, I need these accommodations. And if somebody was to give you a hard time, I mean, legally, they're putting themselves in a contentious situation because you would have to go to your union for that.
Mhm.
I
I
know,
worked for I worked for the state of California, and they even carpeted the walls.
Nice.
I know when I first disclosed, when I first, started working there, they kind of used me as the poster child initially for hearing loss because there was something going on in the Senate. They were trying to advocate for something, and of course they pushed me in the front of it, and and you know what? As much as I didn't like that role, I didn't like being, put on the spot, so to speak. I did it, and I did it because I figured it was kind of a give and take situation. And since that time, it's been more take on me, or maybe it's more give on them, but it's been a good situation. Whereas I haven't had any problem, and it does get easier as time goes on. But and it depends. I mean, if you go up and say, if you start throwing the legality in their face initially, a lot of it is just depend how you approach them.
Mhm.
It's my legal right to have this, and you need to this, and you need to that. That's not going to go over too well. But if you basically say, what Anthony said, that this is going to help me make my job easier for you, and you approach it that way, it's like anything else. The first time is always the hardest.
Does each state make its own rules?
Yeah, I mean, I've been explaining to my daughter, she's 15, and I've been explaining to her about, my hearing because she's a soft talker, So like I tried to get her to not be a soft talker. I think she really learned, like don't bother with the soft talk because it's just gonna frustrate both of us, But it's one thing to talk to your daughter about it. It's another thing to talk to, your job. Like,
And I
yeah.
think the rules are federal, so I mean, it's ADA law. So, I mean, Carol, you could probably have more information about that, but it's ADA. But like I said, you don't want to pull out you don't want to pull out your legal jargon initially because then you will turn people off. But it's just in the approach, how you say it and how you do it.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's a lot easier to tell your family than it is to tell your employer. But once you do
Mhm.
it, it's only going to be a win-win for you.
It sounds like a good idea in a way to email the Department of Equity because it's not even the principal, it's not even the school's budget. It's like from the headquarters. So it's not even going to affect the budget of the people that I work with all the time.
Actually, in my experience, Adina, throughout the years, and I believe I was actually advised by the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing many years ago that technically you do need to go through your direct supervisor, who typically is either the dean or a principal. And then they have to sort of sign off on the okay for the the listening device to be covered by the human resources department, because they're going to just reach out to your supervisor anyway and say, we don't know Adina, why is she asking for this, what does she want? So in my opinion, what worked best for me in my experience is to go to one of your supervisors that you have a good rapport with and start there and say, this is what's going to help me be better at what I do. And it's only going to help the students. Can you help me now in getting this device? And usually also in my experience, I would type up a letter in advance and I would give it to them and say, I know you're so busy. Here is a letter that you can give the head of the HR department that explains my needs and why you do want to get approval for that coverage to buy that equipment. And then this way, all that supervisor needs to do is submit that letter, and it took them less than 5 minutes of their time.
I mean, they do it for kids all the time. I mean, there's so many kids on IEPs and get accommodations. There's no reason why they wouldn't do it for a handful of teachers, or one teacher for that matter, in the district. And it just, they'll make it sound like it's all budgetary, but it's nonsense. The money's there. And it has to be there by law, so.
Well, while I'm wearing this, I might as well, I don't know, I see it backward, but I don't know whether it comes out backward for other people. The walk for hearing is October 4th. And I don't know how many people here are not from the Boston area. It is strange since we've become nationwide. Might be interesting for us to all say where we live. Would you like to do that, Carrie?
Sure, Carol. Thank you so I live in Winchester. Anthony?
Boston, Massachusetts.
What order are we?
Ann Watt, and I live in Massachusetts as well.
I'm in Waltham, Mass.
Yeah, I'm in Hyde Park, Massachusetts.
I think I heard you ask me. I'm in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
I'm in Clinton, Massachusetts.
I'm in Woburn,
Interesting.
Massachusetts.
Huh?
I'm in Dorchester.
I'm in Dorchester.
I
Natick, Massachusetts.
That's fascinating. We list it nationally, and well, I guess it's a better time in the East Coast.
Is anybody not from Massachusetts in this chat? Yes, we're all from
Well, then keep in mind, October 4th, people may think the walk for hearing is just for those people who want to walk what is it, 5, but
0.5 kilometers.
yes. Thank you, Columbus.
3 miles, 5 kilometers. Yeah, 3.5 miles.
Okay. And but there are a lot of booths for all sorts of devices, if you're interested in a captioned phone, for example, and they're free for those who may not know, there are usually displays of the various caption phones, and you can decide which model you like best. And there are various little accessories and things. And we did last year, we had the first display of the glasses with the captions on them.
I think Carol,
Carrie
the,
is who's
fire
working on it.
department had come with the emergency devices, safety devices, as well. We had that display. Yeah, so folks will be hearing more about the walk both in our newsletter and at our meetings. And as Carol and Sue have framed, it's around the Charles River, leaving from Artesani Park. And hopefully with good weather at that time of year, it's a beautiful day. Walk is followed by a gathering at the green, if you will, afterward. And there's informational booths from a slew of different, respected Boston institutions, including, the other social service organizations like Deaf Inc. and the Mass Commission. The fire department is there to display safety devices. We've had vendors with caption glasses and music vest and just an assortment of different displays afterward and just refreshments so folks can gather and, meet other folks in the community and just have a good time. So definitely keep an eye out in the newsletter. There'll be information on that. And we have a few teams walking. So if you'd like to actually join the walk and the fundraising, we'd love to have you for that. If you don't mind, I know we're getting close to wrap up time, but I do want to let folks know that tomorrow is ADA Day celebration in Boston. So at Copley Square Park, which is the park right across from the Boston City Library, the main branch, there's a little green plaza. That is where ADA Day for the city of Boston will be tomorrow from noon to 2 p.m. And that will also have many informational booths from social support organizations throughout the city, really for all forms of disability and other support. And we, HLAA, will have a table there, informational table, to educate people about hearing loss and raise awareness for those that are participating or passing by. So we hope to have a little bit cooler weather. I'm not sure we'll have that, but hopefully a good day and good awareness raising from our participation. The last event I'll mention is next Saturday, which is the 25th of July. The Museum of Science in Boston is hosting a disability pride event. It goes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. A lot of informational speakers on a slew of different topics. And as we know, the museum is just a hotbed of interesting exhibits and fun things to do. But that day, there will be many social support organizations with informational tables, and we hope to participate that day, but still are hoping to get one other volunteer to join Reshma, who has raised her hand to work our table that day. So if you're interested and you can help us out that day, we'd love to have you. It's a fantastic event at the Museum of Science, July 25th, 10 to 4 p.m. So email us if you're interested. So with that, I think it's maybe time to wrap up. I'd like to let folks know this has been, from my opinion, this has been a great evening and a great opportunity to share. And I believe there's a lot of interest in our group to continue these kind of forums, both over Zoom and in person. So if you're interested in helping with that, whether it's facilitating on Zoom or helping us plan an in-person event at a library or a gathering area, convenient to all, please let's reach out because we are interested in doing that. If we can get, some help getting those planned and executed. So with that, I'd like to just say, if there's nothing else,
One more thing. I know it's coming out in the newsletter, but you might want to mention August 19th. You want to do that or, okay. August 19th.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. August 19th, we're trying to plan a visit to the, I think it's called the Museum of Illusions in Boston. We've got a discounted rate. However, I think it's a timed entry, isn't it? Is that what I read?
Yeah, I think we're trying to figure out what times would be available. It would be likely between noon and 2, something in the time slot on the 19th of August.
So we'll just come up with a time and for people to meet if you're interested. And I think it's something like $21 a person, something like that. And then maybe afterwards we'll go get ice cream or something.
Right.
Where is the
We're
museum?
hoping to get 10 people interested in attending so that we can qualify for a group rate and, get our group catered to in that museum setting. So if you are interested in doing that on August 19th, Museum of Illusions, please email us at HLAABoston@gmail.com.
It's
Just
200.
And where is this in Boston located?
It's 200. Oh man, I just looked it up and I just lost it. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah, I can help you, Sue. It's 200 State Street.
200 State
It's
Street.
right sort of downtown.
It's downtown, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we can get a group of people and we're all going from the T somewhere, one spot, we can maybe meet and just all go together or whatever. Anyway. We're also trying to combine this with the Southeast region too. So hopefully we'll get some people from down the Plymouth area as well come up. And they might, rather than parking in the city, they might meet us outside and we'll all take the tea in together.
Sounds great. Thank you for mentioning that, Sue. So stay tuned. You can find it in our August 1st newsletter. We'll be looking for folks to let us know by August 5th or so if they're interested in attending with us. So if that is of interest to you, please keep an eye on it and let us know. Okay, well, thank you everybody for attending and great meeting. It was great to listen and learn from each of you. So thank you for your participation.
Thanks, everybody.
And engagement. Have a good night.
Night.